thank you for joining us. I have with me Paul DuCett, who's from New York, I believe.
Right. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, but I've lived in New York for over half of my life now.
All right, and you're mostly a language teacher.
Right, I've been a language teacher for more than 25 years now.
Okay.
I've taught English as a second language. I've taught Russian, Spanish, a little bit of Latin, a little bit of French, but not much. But mostly I've been a Spanish teacher the last umpteen years. I teach at a institution called Bard High School Early College, which is an interesting place because after 4 years, the students get a high school diploma as well as a 2-year college degree.
Oh wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, Paul, we all hear this story of this friend, this cousin, this family member who says, I've learned Spanish or French for X number of years and I can't speak it. So what's the main problem with language education, in your opinion?
I think the problem is that the people who create language programs do not know really the reality about how we learn languages. I'm a big proponent of Stephen Krashen and Stephen Krashen's theories of like the comprehensible input hypothesis. And if students are exposed to language which is interesting to them and comprehensible to them for enough hours a week, then they will automatically just begin to speak. This practice works with people in, of any race, of any educational background. It's a very, very democratic way of teaching. But what we get instead is often book learning, grammar books for 2 or 3 hours a week. And even under the best circumstances, 2 or 3 hours a week is not enough. So imagine you're teaching a high school class and you're teaching 2 or 3 hours a week. It takes you 20 minutes a period just to get them to be quiet and to listen. I mean, you end up with so little time to actually have any kind of information. And I think that's the #1 reason why people take classes for years and years. And then at the end, it's like, well, I don't know anything.
All right.
Because the methods do not coincide with how actually people acquire languages.
And so the teacher has a big part in it.
The teacher does have a big part in it, but also the parents have a big part, the students themselves. This is something that I'm going to be talking about tomorrow morning actually, is that, I mean, one of the 4 topics that I'm going to be talking about is why is the language revolution, which has been going on for more than 40 years, basically the introduction to input theory, input-centered teaching. If we've known about this for about 40 years, why is it that most schools don't use it? And there are several reasons. One reason is that a lot of the teachers don't even know the theory. There's a dearth of teachers at the college training level who know about this theory, who use it. There are not enough experts. Mm-hmm. Second, sometimes the teachers know the theory, but they sort of misunderstand it. They think that they can, well, I'll just use the regular textbook that we've been using for the last 40 years, and I'll just add a little bit of comprehensive input every now and then. And again, it really comes down to the amount of time that students are exposed to the language. If after you've done all these grammatical exercises, you only have maybe 5 minutes a day of real input, it's not enough. Also, administrators don't know the theories, and they may oppose it. Parents might oppose it. Sometimes the students themselves say, oh, no, I want to learn the way that, they're also kind of brainwashed into thinking we have to do grammar, we have to do exercises, and all of this really doesn't work.
Okay, so tell me, I know you teach some languages, I know you speak some languages, je sais que votre français est très bien.
Non, pas très bien.
Mais it's not necessarily a language that you teach. So right. What's the difference between a language that you learn and a language that you teach?
Well, when one is learning a language by themselves, they have much more freedom. I can choose the content that I like. I can concentrate on content that I find interesting. And that is essentially, the lesson, the revolution that I am in favor of. If you encourage students to seek content that they find interesting, if you introduce them to content they find interesting, if you start reading books in X language or reading or listening to music, reciting poetry, whatever it is that you like in a language, if you start doing that repeatedly, consistently, in many, many different formats, you will learn languages naturally the way that children do. You don't even need to have grammar instruction, vocabulary lists. And when I learn a language on my own, I'm completely free to do it however I want. I can decide whether I want to do grammatical exercises or not. Sometimes I do them because I happen to like grammar. I'm one of the 5% of people who like grammar. About 95 people do not.
Right.
But I do it because it makes me feel good. Am I actually acquiring language through it? Probably not very much, but it makes me feel good, so that I can get it over with, and I can think, okay, I have this underpinning of grammar. Now when I read the stories, when I sing the songs, I'll understand it better. But I probably could have done it without it as well.
Wonderful. Well, Paul DuCett, thank you very much for your time today. It's not your first time in Montreal, I'm assuming?
Oh no, I've been coming to Montreal since 1967. This is my 50th anniversary. I came to Expo 67 Des Les Hommes when I was a little boy.
Well, wonderful stories, I'm sure, it's from that time as well. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Very good.
And good luck in your presentation tomorrow.
Thank you.